The Rolex Explorer II is such an underrated model, and it usually doesn't come to mind at first when thinking of the brand. However, it becomes more and more evident that the Explorer II is gonna be a clear-cut future classic. In particular, the reference I have in my hands today. Its history is intriguing, and while looks is a subjective thing, many see it as an awesome sports model with a ton of character. But there's more to it, so let's jump right in. The very first Rolex Explorer II, the reference 1655, came to the market in 1971. By that time, the brand already had a GMT model in their collection, namely the GMT Master. So, why did Rolex create yet another dual time zone watch? Well, they did not. The very first Explorer II had a fixed 24-hour bezel, so the fourth hand actually served as an AM/PM indicator. Actually, Rolex created the Explorer II for spelunkers who often spent an extensive amount of time in the darkness. The 24-hour indicator helped them determine what time of day it was. After the 1655 came the true predecessor of the watch in my hand. That was the 16550. The 16550 was in production for 4 years when in 1969 the Rolex Explorer II reference 16570 was released. Just like the previous reference, the 16570 has a 40mm steel case, a 24-hour fixed steel bezel, and an oyster bracelet. The earlier reference had the caliber 3085 inside. The 16570 received an upgrade, the 3185 movement, and then later on the 3186. From the 3085 movement on, every caliber had an independently adjustable 24-hour hand, and as such, the watch received a GMT function. Whereas the very first Rolex Explorer II had a wide orange 24-hour or GMT hand, these new references had thinner and longer red hands for the same complication. Rolex introduced a second wide dial color for the new Explorer II. By definition, the 16570 also came with both black and white dial colors. The black is arguably more popular as it looks very similar to the dials of other Rolex sports models. The white dial, also known as Polar Explorer, is rather different from other Rolex sports models. Perhaps this is its charm. The date this reference, the 16570, had the longest lifespan. It was in production from 1989 to 2011 when, for the 40th anniversary of the model, the brand released the updated Explorer II reference 216570. You can determine the rough age of your Explorer II just by looking at the dial. Very early Explorer II 16570s have Swiss T25 written below the 6. These watches still had tritium dials. In the late 90s, the brand went to Luminova, so those markings only say Swiss. From around 2000 onwards, Rolex changed yet again, this time to Super Luminova. The designation on the dial for those pieces is Swiss made. On Chrono24, the Rolex Explorer II sells for around $7,000, and as you can see, the price has gone up quite a bit, especially in the last 2 years. Within the GMT category, the Explorer II is the second most sold model line after the GMT Master II. The steel bezel, the brushed surfaces, and the sporty oyster bracelet, not to mention the GMT function, make the Explorer II a great everyday watch. Whether you travel for work or just looking for a trusty piece that serves you well, the Explorer II is up for the task. But what do you think about the Explorer II, and where would you rank it in comparison to other famous Rolex models? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Enjoy your watches. Bye bye.